way to maintain peace is to remain strong. Weakness, after all, is a temptation. It tempts the pugnacious to assert themselves. But strength is a declaration that cannot be misunderstood. Strength is a condition that declares actions have consequences. Strength is a prudent warning to the belligerent that aggression will not go unanswered. Thanks to our current Commander-in-Chief, the bullies of the world are on notice, and our military will again be strong. We are a nation of incredible exceptionalism. If we look to the answer as to why, for so many years, we have achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it's because here, in this land, we unleashed the energy of the individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been seen before. Because of the sacrifices of so many Americans buried in these hills around us and around the world, we have lived and worked in freedom. Thank you. And the dignity of the individual has been made more available and assured here than any other place on the earth. The price for freedom at times has been high, and we have never been unwilling to pay that price. Those who say we're in a time where there are no heroes, I say to you, look around, look to these grounds. People aren't looking if they don't believe that we still have heroes. Regardless of the place where or the war fought, the purity of their sacrifice is without question. Young men and women lost their lives in order to make the freedom of others possible. Among the many buried here in these hallowed grounds are 273 men and women from America's forgotten war, the Korean War. Their sacrifice is memorialized here at the Willamette National Cemetery, and rightfully so. Noteworthy, too, about this cemetery is the fact there are 4 Medal of Honor, the highest award given in our country for bravery, 4 Medal of Honor winners buried here in these grounds. Heroism is multi-generational. We have First Lieutenant Arnold Bjorkland, World War II. Lieutenant Colonel Stanley Adams, Korea. Sergeant First Class Lauren Kaufman, Korea. And Specialist Fourth Class Larry Dahl, Vietnam. All Medal of Honor winners. A little about Larry Dahl. Larry was born in Oregon City, not far from here. So he was a true Oregon hero of incredible courage. I'd like to share with you his citation. Specialist Fourth Class Larry Dahl distinguished himself for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity while serving as a machine gunner on a truck near Ankei. The truck's name was Brutes. That wasn't in the citation. That tells you what they felt about that truck. His gun truck was sent with 2 other gun trucks to assist in the defense of a convoy that had been ambushed by an enemy force. The gun trucks entered the battle zone and engaged the attacking enemy troops with a heavy volume of machine gun fire. The minigun mounted on that truck immediately brought relief to those under siege. Just the sheer firepower. They caused a lot of enemy casualties. After a brief period of intense fighting, the attack subsided, and the gun trucks were preparing to return to their normal escort duties when an enemy hand grenade was thrown in to Larry's truck. Instantly recognizing the great danger, he called out warning to his mates there and threw himself directly on the grenade. Through his indomitable courage, complete disregard for his safety, and profound concern for his fellow soldiers, Specialist 4th Class Dahl saved the lives of the other members in that truck crew while sacrificing his own. Larry would likely be here today honoring his fellow warriors and perhaps playing with his grandkids. He is an American hero, representative of Oregon grit and willingness to put others first. We have always been ready to fight for liberty and rights. We have a responsibility to defend those rights. The rights most known to Americans are freedom of speech and assembly, freedom to worship, and freedom to seek out life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the responsibility of citizenship, that responsibility is less well understood. To be clear, Larry Dahl understood that responsibility. Of those obligations of citizenship are defending the Constitution, participating in the democratic process, and respecting and obeying federal, state, and local law. Yet, among these responsibilities, there's only one that requires risking life and limb: the defense of the Republic. That is why the deepest obligation of citizenship is fighting for this great country. Certainly, the 4 Marines who entered a CH-53 Super Stallion last month during a training exercise did not expect that to be their final mission, yet it was. On April 3rd, 2018, 4 young men, all in the prime of their life, died for their country as a result of a helicopter crash. The youngest, 24-year-old Lance Corporal Taylor Conrad of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, became the first-time father in October. The longest-serving Marine in the group, Gunnery Sergeant Richard Hawley, had completed 2 tours in Iraq. Captain Samuel Schultz previously deployed with the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. His fellow pilot, First Lieutenant Samuel Phillips, was from Pinehurst, North Carolina, and joined the Marine Corps in August of 2013. The hardest part of being a Marine, and this is a quote from their commanding officer, Craig LaFleur, the hardest part of being a Marine is a tragic loss of a fellow brother in arms. These warhorse Marines brought joy and laughter to so many around them. They each served honorably, wore the uniform proudly, and were a perfect example of what makes our Marine Corps great. It's people. They will forever be in our hearts and minds. And I say to you, they will be forever in our hearts and minds. Not just these Marines, but all soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardmen, and merchant Marines who have made the ultimate sacrifice for this nation. More than 1 million U.S. heroes have had their lives cut short while fighting in war since the American Revolution. The heroes that we remember today are not exclusive to any gender, race, or religion. They are a diverse group, wedded to the common principle that America is a nation worth dying for. We must realize that no arsenal or weapon in any military in the world is as formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It's a weapon our adversaries in this broken world do not have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are our potential adversaries, they will be reminded peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, we will sacrifice for it, and we will not surrender for it, now or forevermore. We are Americans. President Abraham Lincoln once said that through their deeds, the dead of battle have spoken more eloquently for themselves than any of the living ever could. We can only honor them by rededicating ourselves to the cause for which they gave a last full measure of devotion. Today, let's rededicate ourselves to that cause. Today, because of all those heroes that lay beneath those granite markers in this beautiful cemetery and around the world, we can celebrate the triumph of democracy. They personify courage and national spirit and serve as timeless inspiration to all who are free or would be free. Triumph of democracy. We are secure. We are free. These things are worth fighting for. We will always remember, we will always be prepared so that we may always be free. This morning, we again extend our gratitude and support to a group that nobody wants to join, but has already given their country so much, the Gold Star families. Thank you. As we observe Memorial Day every year, these families remember their fallen ones every day. Children without parents, Gold Star mothers and fathers, spouses and siblings, they can still hear the voices of those that they lost. And it is up to us to hear the voices of these families. Offer our support and express our highest gratitude. Whether the people we remember today served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the War on Terror, or any place or time in between, we say thank you for the freedom that you have given us. We are here because of you. God bless you all. God bless America, and God bless our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Captain Wooldridge. Colonel Broadwater, please render the honors.
Please rise and remain standing through the playing of taps. Honor the salute! Order. Halt!
Thank you. Now for our closing remarks, please welcome Mr. Will Streitberger, Director of Portland and Anchorage VA Regional Offices. Director Streitberger, please be seated.
Thank you, Tracy. Good morning, everyone. Today has been a wonderful commemoration of the service and sacrifice of all generations of those who gave their lives in service to our country. Such a beautiful day, such a great program. I want to thank Director Allen for his invitation for me to speak with all of you today, and thank you for being present, for your service, for your patriotism, and for supporting those in service. 100 years ago, the Great War, the war to end all wars, ground to a halt. During that horrific conflict, over 4.7 million Americans served. 53,000 were killed in combat, and over 204,000 were wounded. Just over 2 decades after the Great War, another world war erupted. Let us pause. Thank you. Just over 2 decades after the Great War, another world war erupted, during which 16 million Americans served, and an astonishing 300,000 made the ultimate sacrifice to free Europe, Africa, and the Pacific from tyranny. Only 6 years later, nearly 2 million Americans were called to serve in Korea, where 33,000 gave their lives to rescue a desperate people from communist aggression. Over 3.4 million women and men served in Vietnam. The names of 58,000 who paid the ultimate price are listed on the Vietnam War Memorial in the nation's capital. Lest we forget their sacrifice and the sacrifices of their families. To all of you who made it back, today we say, welcome home. Since Vietnam, Americans have deployed under arms to nearly a dozen troubled nations. Millions have now served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001, and thousands have given their lives in those places. Courageous Americans of every generation have stepped forward to fight for freedom. At the Department of Veterans Affairs, we take great pride in providing health care, benefits, and memorial services. It is our most noble mission to care for those who shall have borne the battle. We are proud to add our voices to the chorus of those honoring and celebrating the 1 million Americans who have paid the ultimate price to secure the blessings of liberty for our nation and for our friends and allies around the world. This Memorial Day, like you, millions of Americans return to hallowed ground in our national and state cemeteries and in our countless hometown fields of honor, and with silent prayers and grateful thoughts, remember those laid to rest here who light the way for an even brighter future for our nation. By your presence at ceremonies and remembrances, by our words of gratitude to our active duty troops and to our veterans, and by your advocacy in the public and private sectors, we reinforce the covenant between America and the men and women who protect and defend her. We do this because we recognize a basic truth. It is, in large part, the acts of the American veteran, especially those laid to rest in these very special places, that bind us to our noble past, strengthen us in the difficult present, and inspire us to meet future challenges. So today, please join Americans everywhere for the national moment of remembrance at 3 p.m. this afternoon by pausing for 1 minute wherever you may be in an act of unity and gratitude for those who have given their lives in service to our nation. Let us always remember that freedom is not free. Let us always recognize the nobility of military service in liberty's name. And let our thoughts be with the dedicated men and women who put their lives on the line to protect the freedoms we hold so dear. We owe them our deepest gratitude and utmost support. And let us be most thankful that in each generation, brave women and men will always step forward to take the oath of allegiance as America's members of the armed forces, willing to fight and, if necessary, die for the sake of freedom and for the sake of our children and our nation's future. Thank you for being here today. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Director Streicher. As we draw to a close, our benediction will be offered by Mr. Buzz Nelson, spiritual leader of the Lakota Nation. Mr. Nelson?
Hau mitaki api. Lea petuki chanti Echa Wowaglake, Na Iuha, Na Pecha Yuzapi. Hello, all my relatives and neighbors of this land. I welcome all of you and shake all of your hands. I was invited last year to do the invocation here, and it gives me great, deep honor to be here again today. These hallowed grounds, I have a son buried up on a hill, will also be the grounds for me and my wife, our final resting place. So it gives me great privilege and great honor to be here today and to say this invocation, which I'll make real short, and I'll say it in my native tongue, because the Great Spirit hears all of our prayers in all of our languages, and that maybe our warriors who have fallen on this land, who have taken arms to survive, for our country to survive, will rest in peace here forever and never have to take arms again against anyone. May God bless them. May God bless you all. Tukashala, wakantanka, atewaka, na inawaka, lea petuki chantewa ita huaglake naha, wachiki aipe. Tuktetuki wa unhantash, le apetuki le pilamia, le wa unelo. I ask the Great Spirit to bless all of you, bless these brothers and sisters in these hallowed grounds, and may that all of us that are someday, who are out here today, who are going to be here in these final resting spots, may we welcome all of you, and please, may God bless these hallowed grounds for all of us. Thank you for letting me be here, and it's a great honor, a great privilege that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Oh, hill me talk yapi. Yo, all my relatives. Oh.
Honor Guard, retrieve the colors. Military services, retrieve your colors. Service organizations, retrieve your colors.
Sir, permission to retire the colors.
Retire the colors. Honor Guard, retire the colors. Military services, retire your colors. Service organizations, retire your colors. Mrs. Morgan, thank you.
You may be seated. The director and staff at Willamette National Cemetery wish to thank you for your efforts that you have made to attend these 68th annual Memorial Day ceremonies. Please exercise special care and patience as you depart. You do so in the peace and liberty secured by those you have honored by your attendance this morning. We are dismissed.